So, is Sacramento actually an affordable place to live? The short answer is yeah, it can be, but the real answer? It depends. Because what most people do is they look at Sacramento from the outside. They see home prices, they hear it's cheaper than other parts of California, and they think, okay, this is where we're gonna save some money. But then they actually move here, and then they start paying for everything: mortgage, utilities, gas, groceries, childcare, taxes, and all of a sudden it doesn't feel as cheap as they expected. Now, here's the thing: Sacramento is more affordable than the Bay Area or LA, and that's not a myth. But more affordable doesn't necessarily mean cheap. And if you go into this move without fully understanding the big picture, you're going to feel that gap between what you expected and what you're actually spending. So in this video, I'm breaking down the real cost of living in Sacramento, California for 2026. Not just the surface level stuff, I'm talking about what it actually costs to live here, month to month, housing, taxes, utilities, groceries, commuting, childcare, lifestyle. And then at the very end of this video, I'm gonna give you a very realistic breakdown of what you actually need to make a comfortable living here. So let's get into it. All right, now let's start with the big one, which is gonna be housing, because this is gonna be your largest expense by far. And this is also the reason why most people even look at Sacramento in the first place. They want more space, they wanna be able to buy a home, they want something that actually feels attainable. And honestly, compared to where most of our clients are coming from, this is a real thing. So if you're coming from San Jose, San Francisco, you know what $700,000 used to get you there. Maybe a small condo, maybe a townhome. Out here, the same budget, you can get a 4 to 5 bedroom home with a yard in a solid suburb. And that's the real difference about Sacramento to some of these other places. Now, here's what we're seeing right now across the Sacramento region. Entry-level homes, we're talking $450 to $550. This is gonna be smaller homes, older construction homes, areas that are still developing. Now you can find deals here, but you're likely gonna be getting some trade-offs. Maybe the school districts aren't as strong. Maybe the commute is a little bit longer than what you really want to. Maybe the home needs a little bit more work than you're willing to put in. It's not a bad entry point, but go into it with eyes wide open. The next bracket is going to be move-up homes. We're talking 600 to 800K. Now this is where most of our clients land. In this range, you're getting a 3 to 5 bedroom home, somewhere between 1,800 to 3,000 square feet, decent schools, established neighborhoods. You're looking at places like Elk Grove, parts of Folsom, West Roseville, Rancho Cordova, Lincoln, Rockland. This is gonna be the sweet spot for families relocating here from a lot of areas inside of California. Then you're gonna have the higher end. The higher end is gonna be 850 to $1 million. Now you're gonna be looking at newer construction, larger lots, and think of the best locations. Think Folsom, Roseville, El Dorado Hills, Granite Bay. These are the communities that people tend to move to when they want top-rated schools, walkability, and newer amenities. And the product is genuinely great out there. Now here's the mistake that most people make. They look at those numbers and think, okay, I can't really afford that. But what they're not thinking is the monthly payment. Let me give you a very real scenario. A $650,000 home with 5% down, with interest rates in the 6.5% right now, you're realistically looking at about $4,000 to $4,800 per month, including principal, interest, property taxes, and insurance. Now, of course, always consult a licensed mortgage professional, but if you're buying new construction, which a lot of people are out there right now, you've also got to factor in Melrose and potentially HOA. Now, Melrose is that special assessment on newer communities. It funds infrastructure, schools, roads, parks, and it can run anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 per year depending on the community. HOAs on top of that, that's usually going to be somewhere between $50 to $150 a month. So now that same home can feel a lot more like $4,800 to $5,500 a month. And that's where people start going, okay, a little bit more than I thought, but it's not a deal breaker, but it's something that you do need to plan for. By the way, if we haven't met yet, my name is Lance, and my wife Lauren and I help people relocate to the Sacramento Metro every single week. So whether you're coming from the Bay Area, Southern California, or from completely out of state, we can help you figure out the areas that make the most sense for your budget, your lifestyle, and your family. And we help people avoid the mistakes we see people make over and over again. So if you need help at any point, reach out to us, call, text, or email, whatever works best for you. We're here. Our contact information is going to be down in the description and pinned in the top of the chat. All right, now let's talk about property taxes, because this is actually one of the most straightforward parts about living in Sacramento, California. Your base rate is going to be about 1% of your purchase price. So on that $650,000 home, that's about $6,500 a year. So you're gonna have some local bonds and assessments on top of that. So most people land somewhere around 1.1 to 1.25% total. Now here's the thing that's a real advantage about buying in California long-term. Proposition 13, your property taxes are based on your purchase price, and that can only go up a small amount per year. So unlike other states where your tax bill can jump dramatically year over year as values rise, in California, once you buy, it's relatively stable long-term, and that's a meaningful benefit. Now keep in mind, we do feature a lot of new construction on this channel, so that 1.1 to 1.25% might be slightly higher if you're only considering new construction homes. So new construction, probably plan for somewhere between 1.7 to 1.85 of the purchase price. Now, utilities is one of those things that's gonna catch a lot of people off guard. Sacramento summers are no joke. We're talking 95 to 105 plus degree when you're running your AC all day long. And it will be your power bill that's gonna reflect that. Now, this depends on where you land. If you're in Sacramento County, you're gonna be on SMUD, which is Sacramento Municipality Utility District. SMUD is cheaper than most utility providers in all of California. Most households on SMUD are gonna be looking somewhere between $150 to $300 per month. Now, if you're in Rockland, Granite Bay, Lincoln, parts of El Dorado Hills, you're gonna be on PG&E. And in the summer months, this same bill with SMUD can be somewhere between $300 to $600 per month, sometimes more depending on the size of your home and whether or not your home has solar. Now keep in mind, if you are in city of Roseville, that one's probably gonna be the cheapest utility that you can have. That one, that same bill that's $150 to $300 a month in SMUD is probably gonna be somewhere between $100 to $200 per month. Now, a few things that really drive this up. Older homes with less insulation are gonna run hotter and harder. Bigger homes are gonna cost more to cool. So that 3,000 square foot house that you've been eyeing on Zillow is not gonna be so cheap in August. And if you don't have solar, you're gonna feel every hot streak that we experience in the summertime. So a lot of new construction communities out there include solar, or it's mandated by the state of California, and that's gonna help. But if you're buying resale without it, just budget conservatively and plan for those summer spikes. Water, trash, and internet are also gonna be on top of that bill. So you're typically adding another $150 to $250 per month, depending on where you are. All right, next up, you've got groceries. And for most families in Sacramento, you're looking at somewhere between $800 to $1,200 per month. And that's a pretty wide range because it really depends on how you shop. You've got Winco and Walmart for the budget-friendly side of things. You've got Safeway and Raley's in the middle. You've got Nugget Market and Whole Foods on the higher end. Most people end up mixing it up. Winco for staples, Nugget or Raley's when they want something a little bit nicer. Now, eating out. Sacramento actually has a really good food scene. Midtown is excellent, and it's probably the most underrated food neighborhood in all of California. You've got East Sacramento, downtown, the Fab 40s. There's a lot going on, but you're still looking at somewhere between $60 to $100 for a casual dinner or a family of 4. Nice dinners, call it somewhere between $100 to $200 and up. And if you're going out 2 or 3 times a week, you're definitely gonna feel that. Quick question, where are you moving from? Because that's going to completely change how Sacramento feels for you financially. Somebody coming from Palo Alto is gonna feel like they've landed on a completely different universe. Somebody coming from Texas or Nevada might feel like things are a bit more expensive. So drop it down in the comments. I'm genuinely curious where you guys are coming from. All right, now next on the subject is gonna be gas. And typically this is always a sore subject for a lot of people because gas typically has $1 to $1.25 more in added taxes than other states. Gas in Sacramento, California right now is gonna be somewhere between $4.50 to $5.50 a gallon right now. Yes, it's gonna be higher. That is just California. But the nice thing about Sacramento is usually we're a little bit lower than some of those other Bay Area cities. Now, diesel is gonna be somewhere around $7 a gallon. And if you go to some of the more premium places like Chevron or Shell, those are gonna be somewhere closer to $6 a gallon. But honestly, the biggest factor for a lot of people isn't the price at the pump, but it's the commute in Sacramento. Sacramento doesn't have a full loop freeway system, so everything funnels from the perimeter suburbs into Sacramento. So you got I-5, Highway 99, Highway 50, and Interstate 80. In the morning time, all of that stuff converges in on Sacramento during the peak hours, and then in the evening time, it all goes out towards the suburbs. So during those peak hours, those corridors get congested. So what looks like a 20-minute drive on a Google map at 2 p.m. can turn into a 40 or 45-minute drive 5 p.m. on a Tuesday or 8 or 9 o'clock on a Monday. So one of the most important things that we talk to clients about before they even pick a neighborhood is where are you working? Because if you're commuting into downtown Sacramento and you buy in Rockland, you need to understand what that drive looks like. Not the best case scenario, but the real scenario. That decision alone can save you a lot of frustration. All right, next is gonna be homeowners insurance in California, and that has been getting more and more expensive. And we have to be honest about that one. Wildfire risk has pushed a lot of carriers out of the state completely. Even though it hasn't really happened directly in Sacramento, it has been one of the main reasons that's raised the rates here in California in general. So for most homeowners in the Sacramento area, you're gonna be looking somewhere at about $1,200 to $2,000 a year on the lower end. Now keep this in mind, if you're in the higher risk areas or parts of El Dorado Hills, Auburn, Placerville, or different foothill communities that are going to be on your way between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe, that number is going to go up significantly. So before you fall in love with a home, make sure you get those insurance quotes first. You don't want to wait until you're in escrow and then get surprised by something. Now, the other big one is going to be auto insurance. Now plan on about $150 to $300 a month per car, depending on how many vehicles are on your policy, who's driving, and what you're driving. Next, we're gonna deal with childcare and family costs. So we don't talk about this one a lot on the channel, but you guys are coming from other areas, which means that you don't have the help of grandma and grandpa. So if you've got kids, this one is going to be a big one. Daycare in the Sacramento area is going to run you about $900 to $1,500 per month per child. So that's gonna range wildly depending on the age, type, and care, location, all of those different things. Infant care is definitely gonna be on the higher side. Preschool programs are gonna vary a lot. And then on top of that, you're gonna have supplies, aftercare activities, sports, music lessons. It definitely all adds up faster than people expect. Now, schools matter a lot in the Sacramento region, and there's a real difference between all the different districts that we talk about. This is why part of the people gravitate towards places like Folsom Cordova Unified, Roseville City, Rockland Unified, Elk Grove Unified. These are all consistently well-regarded school districts. Now, if schools are a priority for you or your family, and for most of our clients who are coming to the Sacramento region, they are, this needs to be a factor about where you buy. Now, next up is going to be healthcare, and healthcare is pretty standard in California for most of the state. You've got all of your major providers like Kaiser, Sutter, UC Davis, Dignity, and depending on your plan and your employer coverage, a family can be looking at somewhere between $400 to $1,000 plus per month. If you're self-employed or you're moving without an employer benefits, this is something that you're definitely going to need a budget for. I've seen people pay north of $1,500 a month just for a family of two. All right, now before we jump into the last section of this video and we start talking about what you actually need to make to thrive in the Sacramento region, we had a client move here not too long ago. They bought a house, they loved the neighborhood, they loved Sacramento, but we got a phone call from them about 3 months ago and they were like, guys, this is feeling a little bit tighter than we had anticipated. We sat down with them, we met with them, they were thinking about selling their home. When we actually started to run all their numbers, it wasn't the house, it wasn't the mortgage, it wasn't even the area that they didn't like. It was everything else that they hadn't accounted for. Daycare for 2 kids, the commute was a little bit longer. Some of the little nuances, the utility bills, some of that stuff was just a little bit more than they anticipated. So we want to make sure that before you guys even start looking at homes, start looking at new construction developments, we want to figure out the area. We want to figure out where you're going to be working, what your lifestyle is going to actually look like. Are you going to spend time at Folsom Lake? Are you guys going to head down to the Bay Area frequently to visit family and friends? All of that stuff is an important factor on where you should be living. We have corridors here, guys. We have the 80 corridor, the 50 corridor, the 99 corridor, even the 5 on the north and the south side of Sacramento, and all of that stuff is wildly different depending on where you work. If you live in Lincoln but you have to work down in Elk Grove, you're going to be spending a minimum of 2.5 hours per day in your car. So this is a big thing that we always want to focus on. Make sure if you guys are thinking about making the move to the Sacramento region, or you're thinking about moving to any one of the suburbs, that is what we are here for. We love helping you guys strategize and figure out the best game plan on moving to the greater Sacramento metro. All right, so the last category is what do you actually need to make to live here comfortably? So we're gonna give you some real numbers. So for a single person, somewhere between $70,000 and $90,000, you're gonna be doing okay. You're going to be able to rent a modest home. You're going to be able to make things work. If you're north of 100K and up, you're going to be definitely comfortable and you're going to have plenty of breathing room. Now, for a couple with no kids, somewhere between $120,000 to $140,000 combined is going to give you some solid footing, especially if only one of you guys is working. 150 plus, super comfortable, building savings, and you can afford some of the nicer neighborhoods. Family with kids, 140 to 160, and you can definitely make it work, but childcare is gonna feel heavy. 180 to 200K, and that's where you're gonna feel comfortable with the mortgage, the kids' activities, and the life. Now remember, some of these numbers are based off of a comfortability level. While Sacramento is a lot cheaper than a lot of places in California, it's still California. So these numbers shift based off of your home price, what your lifestyle choices are, how much you're planning on saving, and whether or not you have debt. Somebody buying a $500,000 home could have a completely different monthly reality than somebody buying $850,000. And that's why we always want to do a full budget breakdown with all of our clients, not just on the home price, not just on the area, the neighborhoods, the school districts, but what your life may actually cost on a month-to-month basis. So what's the real cost of living in Sacramento? It's definitely manageable. It's definitely a lot more predictable than a lot of other California markets, but it's not as cheap as the headlines make it sound. So if you go into it with a full understanding and the full picture of housing, taxes, utilities, childcare, lifestyle, you're gonna be in an incredibly good position. If you're thinking it's gonna be dramatically cheaper than where you're coming from without running real numbers, that's where people get caught off guard. So if you're thinking about making the move, reach out to us. We'll help you figure out the right area, the price point, and what your life may actually look like and what it's gonna look like to live here. So call, text, email us. We're always easy to get a hold of. We don't hand you off. We don't pass you off to an assistant. We are the ones that answer every phone call, email, and text message, and we absolutely love when you guys reach out to us. So give us a phone call, shoot us a text, or send us that email, and we will see you on the next one.